Good morning, fellow English teachers. Do you desire to inspire? Cabined, cribbed, confined by Pro Park hours, the Haddington Road Agreement, national averages, progress, or should I say, lack of progress reports. The internet's gone down. Oh no, the toner has run out of the photocopying machine. The steep mountains of corrections climb to the sky. I wake and feel the fell of dark, not day. How can we knit up this raveled sleeve of care? This summer, all the medical students graduating from Scottish universities received a book of poems called Tools of the Trade, edited by two GPs, funded privately. The foreword reads, "We offer this little book of poetry as a friend to provide inspiration, comfort and support as you begin your work." This, they felt, was the most effective way to support bright but immature, sleep-deprived young people going from a classroom to a ward, needing to empathise, soothe and heal their fellow man. They needed something fast and powerful to sustain their humanity. Harvard Medical School agreed. They have given students poems to study as a way of developing their empathy with patients and to combat the creeping cynicism of their profession. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the great gift you bring to your students. An invitation from the greatest writers to come into my world and see what I see. Literature articulates, it gives a voice. Many of us this morning have travelled long distances, often on familiar roads, and as we sped by landmarks, memories of times past, friends gone, resurfaced. Ní Cileanán captures it beautifully in The Bend in the Road. This is the place where the child felt sick in the car and they pulled over and waited in the shadow of a house. A tall tree like a cat's tail waited too. You are taller now than us. The tree is taller, the house is quite covered in with green creeper, and the bend in the road is as silent as ever it was on that day. This is the place of their presence, in the tree, in the air. There has been much criticism lately of learning by rote. I prefer Heaney's expression, learning by heart, internalizing what oft was thought but ne'er so well expressed, holding it in the heart till needed. I was reminded of this in the early days of the recession, where along the Liffey, hoardings on failed developers' buildings were covered with lines from Yeats's poetry. He gave the ordinary man the voice to reflect on and express his anger and frustration. The rampant materialism caught in the phrase, the halfpence of the pence, until you have dried the marrow from the bone. The heartfelt sadness that the vision of a better Ireland was let slip away. Romantic Ireland's dead and gone. The awful regret that sons and daughters were emigrating. They have gone about the world like wind. How fresh and contemporary do the lines ring, and we all know who he's talking about. No knave brought to book. The clever man who cries, the catch cries of the clown. Art questions assumptions. It challenges you to stand and stare. Listen to what Dickens has to say about fiscal rectitude. "My other piece of advice, Copperfield," said Mr. Micawber, "you know. Annual income, £20. Annual expenditure, 19, 19 and 6. Result, happiness. Annual income, £20. Annual expenditure, £20, 0 and 6. Result, misery. The blossom is blighted, the leaf is withered, the god of day goes down upon the dreary scene, and in short, you are forever floored." Yet, Ireland is world class, and not just because of the corporation tax. Over half of our population is under 35, giving us the youngest and most flexible workforce in Europe. Ireland is the only English-speaking country in the Eurozone. Forbes magazine commented, You want to have a common language if you're setting up operations in Europe. Ireland has one of the best educated forces in the world. So when you're coming under criticism, remember this statistic. 50% of Irish employees have a university degree compared to an EU average of 29%. So fellow teachers, you are the powerhouse in this country which is turning the wheel of progress, pulling us out of recession. I was in a pub not so long ago, relaxing with a nice glass of red, as you do, when a former pupil came up. She was one of the emigrants, New York in her case. She proceeded to tell me how her company had taken them out to a production of Romeo and Juliet in the Met. At the break, they discussed the play. Niamh jumped in, discussing and quoting various passages to the somewhat amazed surprise of her bosses. "Where did you go to school?" A student from a provincial school in Ireland was able to hold her head high and secure her promotion in the Big Apple because her play was known, just like some of the poems in the Doctor's Handbook, internalised, felt, warmed by the heart, and when the moment was right, ready to emerge. This is learning by heart, a wonderful inspiration, a confidence-building tool, and a deep, deep comfort in times of stress. This, my fellow teachers, is the gift you bring. So let's move further afield. On a recent journey to Mars, the camera was turned back onto our world, and it was seen as a mote of dust suspended on a sunbeam, the lonely speck in the cosmic dark. It reminded us to cherish the lovely blue dot, the only home we've ever known. So let us learn to look. Let us, as the writers invite us, come into my world and see what I see. Al Pacino is starring in a new production of Salome by Oscar Wilde. The great classics, he announced, are contemporary. Today, our world is dark, full of threat and violence, IS, beheadings, tyrannical rulers. Wilde wrote, "The gods of my country are very fond of blood. Twice in the year we sacrifice, but it seems we never give them quite enough." Classics are indeed contemporary. From the TV screens, the first British casualty of the bombings looked out at us. He could have been any of our students, 19 years old in his baseball cap, large glasses and young face. His distraught mother could not understand how he had been swayed. One of the gifts we bring is the development of critical awareness. Never has there been such a need in our world, the ability to question, particularly the very sophisticated output on the internet. Who put it up? Why did they put it up? What is their agenda? Can I trust what is being said or shown? Today, more than ever, we have a duty to our young people to encourage them to form their own opinions, because weapons do not kill, as Asghar remarks in his poem Bullet. "I want to give up being a bullet. I've been a bullet too long. The question is, can you give up being a killer?" The most effective weapon is actually an idea. Weapons are triggered by people. Getting into the mind of the person changes the outcome. Teaching awareness and developing the critical capabilities of the young prevents manipulation. Resilience is another gift we bring. Our young have to accept that life is unfair. Life is often a mess. But art orders. Stories take tragic and terrible things and make something beautiful out of the pieces, rather like a mosaic. The random cruelty of life is vividly captured by Frost in Out Out, as a farm accident is vividly depicted. The buzzsaw snarled. His sister stood beside him in her apron to tell them supper. At the word, the saw, as if to prove that saws knew what supper meant, leapt out at the boy's hand. The chilling aftermath of the accident is quietly told, and that ended it. And they, since they were not the ones dead, turned to their affairs. How often have young teenagers had to deal with random accidents of dear friends and yet have to return to their own daily lives? These poems give students the opportunity to reflect and discuss that life does not always reward the good. They provide the key to unlock the students' emotions. I was at the Ashling Education and Support Centre some weeks ago. It was founded by Christine Buckley for those who had suffered abuse in various institutions. And I introduced Robert Frost's I Am One Acquainted with the Night. I asked them, age group 60 to 70, to Google his life. Off they went, and came back and told me about the fact that Frost's 6 children, only 2 survived him. His father died, his mother too, and his sister was committed to a mental asylum. So they felt, yes, this man could confidently say, I have been one acquainted with the night. One of the students, Desi, said, yeah, I get it all right. I have been one acquainted with the night. And he began to tell the story of the Dice Man, Tom, who was a street entertainer on Grafton Street, who mimicked a statue or who dressed as a teapot, which was a nod to Bewley's, the famous tea shop on Grafton Street. And suddenly, the shabby white walls of our little room fell away, and we were transported into the night as the Dice Man's coffin was carried by his friends along Grafton Street and its surrounds. People stood and clapped for the joy he had brought. And then Desi's friend joined in, and he spoke of a funeral, and this time it was Erskine Childers' funeral, and he described, and these were his words, how the hush seeped from the TV screen. 2 men, given a voice, unlocked by a great poet's seriousness and honesty, his mastery of the rhythms of actual speech. I have been one acquainted with the night. The door inches open. As I stand now at the end of 40 years, I have to admit it, teaching, I remember the bold first-year class who had the room ready for me for the debate on internet bullying because we had just read Lord of the Flies and they were shocked by Piggy's death. The soft child Kifa, who was the top fan of One Direction, who fell in love with Lenny because of his love for furry animals and regarded Steinbeck as her writer. The rascals in 5th year asked to present on the opening of Macbeth, who videoed themselves emerging from the shrubbery, chanting "Fair is foul and foul is fair" to a reggae beat. These are the memories I and they carry, distilled, as Friel would say, and left as precious, precious gold. This summer we lost a wonderful actor, Robin Williams of Dead Poets Society fame. In life, you cannot always choose what you do, but you can choose what you are. May I wish you many moments in the future where you stand back and watch your students metaphorically call Captain, my Captain, because you have unlocked their voice by empowering them with the thoughts and words of the great writers. No one can throw a ditch on their vision of truth and beauty because you have taught them resilience. And guess what? We teachers are also resilient creatures. Our long tradition from the hedge schools to the techno classroom of today shows a profession which shines a light into the darkness of ignorance as we desire to inspire. We are not the ragged claws of a proof rock, but are the proud advocates of those who dare to disturb the universe. Just take a look at the British media, full of articulate, witty Irish presenters. From Terry Wogan to Graham Norton, we even have infiltrated Al Jazeera television with a quota of Irish presenters. In the area of poets, writers and playwrights, we are second to none. And just think what good you are doing the economy due to literary tourism, which I believe is the new buzzword for the tourist industry. Seamus Heaney said, "Nole timere, do not be afraid." He remarked, "The way we are living, timorous or bold, will have been our life." Yeats believed education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. It is time to pass the torch of learning to the next generation of teachers. May your students develop empathy. May they find their voice. May they learn by heart. May they question. May they listen. May they respect. May they live their lives with courage. And may they be resilient and accept and face life's challenges. May they create. Yes, you do desire to inspire. The torch of education, my fellow teachers, is now yours. hold that torch high. Thank you.